Have you written a book and want it published? We print and digitize your book and place your book for sale online and in bookstores everywhere. We'll get your book into bookstores.
It's been a while since I've posted anything on YouTube, and wanted to share a little bit of my story from this past year. We kind of went quiet after our Grand Canyon adventure, which was pretty epic. Again, as if you look at those videos, you'll see some of the process and the outcome, and a little disappointment, but we did make it across one way, so that was pretty cool, and it's just a beautiful place. But this past year, again, as many, I ended up getting COVID. I think I initially had it in January of 2022, and I'm not sure. I wasn't positive. I did not test that for that, but the symptoms all were pretty similar to what most people experience with COVID. Kind of a little sore throat, and just did not feel great overall. Felt different than a cold, and but again, I'm not a medical expert. I'm just sharing my personal experience, and maybe some of the information will help you in dealing with COVID if you've had it. And again, the other thing, just to let you know, I'm not trying to be political. I'm just sharing my own personal experience. I decided not to get vaccinated. Had some different reasons for that. Still not sure what perfectly is the right thing on that, but it looks like, so I did not get vaccinated. So originally I got COVID, I believe, in January. Very mild conditions. I was running probably 30 miles a week then, maybe 30, 40. So I think I backed off. I missed one day running, and I did chill a little bit when I got it, so I backed off a little bit, and then recovered pretty much. No real ongoing symptoms or anything going on, so I continued to do a lot of running and training, and we were actually training quite a bit in April and May for doing the Grand Canyon hike. So a lot of that was hiking. Again, supplemented with running because I'm always running. So again, probably doing 30 to 40 miles of running a week, and then we would do some long hikes. I think we got up to like 26-mile hike one time. So that was like almost 9 hours. We were going up and down a mountain or hill, whatever you want to call it, in South Mountain, North Carolina. Just a beautiful place. But we would just kind of do loops there, trying to replicate the Grand Canyon experience. So, but then in July, so I did a half marathon in March of 2022, and ran an okay time. It was a pretty challenging course as far as the start and the finish were both uphill pretty severely, and I did a 1:38, which was not fantastic, but wasn't too bad. And so I was hoping we were starting to ramp up, trying to qualify for another Boston Marathon by doing a marathon in Erie, Pennsylvania in September of 2022. So we did the half marathon in March, then we went into the Grand Canyon training and hiking, and then tried to convert from that into training for a half marathon in July in Erie, and then with the plan to hit the September fall marathon for Erie, the full marathon. So in the process of doing that, I got hurt doing the hiking. Had some issues from going downhill and some pretty steep inclines, and we were kind of running downhill with pack on, so that probably didn't help. But ended up having to be off like 3 weeks before doing the Grand Canyon hike, which probably didn't help, and maybe part of the reason why I didn't have much success there. But anyways, we went to Erie, Pennsylvania in July, mid-July. We did the Erie Half Marathon. Again, my time was almost exactly the same, 1:38, which was pretty discouraging because, again, this was a pancake flat half marathon in Erie, Pennsylvania, around the peninsula. Just a beautiful place, and very flat. So pretty, of course, it would really you would think you'd be able to run pretty well. So just didn't hit it. But then about 2 days later, we got back from Erie, and I started having sore throat, and again, COVID-like symptoms. And I thought, this seems like COVID. And so this time I actually did take a test, and I did test positive for COVID. So that's been kind of the beginning of a journey. So I was in the process of, like I said, training for the Erie Marathon. So I did not want to cut back on my mileage. So I was still, so we were training for the marathon, and I didn't feel great, but I didn't feel terrible. So I actually was ramping up my mileage then. I think I did like, my mileage during the first 5 days of having COVID was 11 miles, 10 miles, 6 miles, 16 miles, and 12 miles. That was the first 5 days of COVID. And I kind of had like a tightness in the chest and a little bit of labored breathing and sore throat. And then it kind of went away after probably 7 to 10 days, and I started feeling better. But then about a month later, my symptoms cranked up again, and I was having a tightness of chest, shortness of breath, which was probably the most concerning and disconcerting. It was really tough to fall asleep. I was also experiencing insomnia. So that was all combined together so that one night I just never fell asleep, which that never happens to me. I typically don't have any kind of real issues with sleeping. I may wake up early sometimes if I've got some deep sleep that night. Then I may wake up at like 3:34 and get up because I feel somewhat rested and no big deal. But not sleeping at all, never falling asleep, that's very rare. So I ended up calling the doctor the next day. And when I started telling him the shortness of breath and stuff, then he became pretty concerned. So I said, well, you need to go to the emergency room. I was like, I don't want to go to the emergency room. But anyways, went to the emergency room. They started doing lung tests and heart tests. And again, not being medical, I can't remember all the tests they put me through. But one thing they did discover was my magnesium was super low, like non-existent, which is really bizarre because I have a diet that's got magnesium in it. Some of my running supplements even will have some magnesium in them. So not sure why that happened, but I guess that can contribute to heart issues. And I was experiencing PVCs. I think they're called premature ventricular contractions, which means extra beats, and I think missed beats is the way they explain it. So, so they admitted me to a hospital. Did a lot more scans. I think I did a lung CTC scan. I did some kind of, they did an additional some kind of sonar of your heart. I can't remember what they called that. And everything came back checking out pretty well. It was really weird when I was in there. They were monitoring my heart the whole time, and I would have a lot of times where also my heart would just drop down to like low 30s heart rate. So it was really bizarre that my heart rate was dropping down that low. The other thing that I can kind of a precursor is my heart rate on my watch. I've got a Garmin watch. It's an optical wrist heart rate, so it's not perfect. But at night, I was getting a lot before I went to the hospital. It was getting a lot of times when I have really low resting heartbeat, like in the 30s, which was pretty rare. My resting heart rate when everything's normal is probably right around mid 40s. So it was getting to 30s and lower 30s sometimes. So I don't think that was actually right, but I think because I was having PVCs, my optical heart rate monitor could not figure that out. And so that was kind of a sign looking back that I was having issues before I ended up even going to the hospital. So they admitted me, they kept me overnight, but then they released me the next day because all my tests checked out well, everything looked good. And then I went home. They said I could continue running. In fact, it was kind of weird. You started thinking, okay, am I just losing my mind? Because I started having these, I was like, is this just anxiety? Is it just all mental? Because I'd actually feel a little bit better when I would exercise. I felt like I could breathe better. And so, sometimes in the middle of the night when I couldn't sleep, I would go out on the treadmill and just try to walk, just try to get active. And I felt like I would get a little relief. So it seemed pretty weird, but they ended up putting me on a Holter monitor, which you put on your chest and you just have it on you for 3 days straight. And ended up, when I finally went back to the doctor to see what they thought about those results, he said, first of all, I had a high, what he called a high burden of PVCs. And I told him that, to be honest, when I was doing that monitor, I didn't really have any of my symptoms of the tightness of chest or difficulty breathing or insomnia. So I think he was kind of surprised that was the case. I didn't feel worse from what he was seeing on the monitor. And then the other thing was that he could see that when I did exercise, when I started getting my heart rate up a little bit, that my PVCs would calm down a little bit. So why that happens, I still don't have any answers for that, but that was what was going on. So So I continued to kind of go through this cycle where I'd be like pretty much fine for 2 weeks. I feel like the running just never was quite clicking now. I just felt like I was always struggling to get a decent pace, and just didn't have the same kind of pep that I would normally have for my runs as I was training for the longer runs for the marathon. So, but then I would go through these cycles where all of a sudden every 10 days or so I'd end up with like another time of like, okay, insomnia, tightness in the chest, the just trouble breathing, and I would just kind of, and it'd be like, okay, there's about 7 days of that, and then I would cycle back out of that, and things would calm down again. So I kept going through that a little bit, and finally I went to I think they called him the electrical heart doctor. So, and he ended up putting me on flecainide, 50 milligrams of flecainide in the AM and the PM, and that seemed to have an immediate impact on me, and it kind of calmed down all the extra PVCs, and then I was able to sleep better, and felt better overall. Then sorry about that, I had a phone call come in, but about 10 days after I started taking the medication, I did go through another dip where I started having the insomnia, the shortness of breath, and the tightness in the chest, but it was at a much lower level than I had experienced before, and it was pretty manageable. And so I've continued to go through those cycles. Probably every 2-3 weeks, I'll go through a couple days where just things feel off a little bit. Even the last week or so, I've had just kind of this, I can't even explain it, but it's like I just feel off. And I just don't know how to explain it. It feels like everything's ramped up in my body, and it's just like, I don't know, the virus pops back up again, and my body's trying to fight it off, or what it is. But I don't know how to explain it. No one's given me a solid answer on that. I have gone back. I've gone through. What I end up doing, I got a heart MRI. I did a stress test. Both of those were late November, and so no answers as far as how to really deal with what COVID's done to me, but there's no lasting impact. My heart looks pretty good. Heart looks pretty strong. It looked like a runner's heart. But he said that can make it a little more, there's a tendency to get the PVCs because your heart is a little bit expanded and some of the walls are thinner, I think is what he said, something like that. Again, I might be completely misunderstood what he said, but my stress test went really well. Said I looked really, really good on that. Did a lot better than what he would have expected for a 60-year-old. So that was positive. But I continue to go through these little cycles where things are just off a little bit. So I continue to take the flecainide. That's been a godsend, though, to be honest. At least it seems like it. The timing of since I've taken that, I've never gone into a really, really ramped up situation where everything has been really bad. So overall, it seems like it's been a good thing to kind of mellow things out for me. So I need to go. I'll go back to that doctor here probably within the next month or so, and then we'll see what he says and whether I should stay on the flecainide or get off. I've decided I was going to try to get off it as soon as I could, but I decided that until I just not experiencing symptoms anymore at all, I probably should stay on it unless he recommends something other. Again, I'd like to get off of it. I don't like being on medication. So, but that's kind of been my experience with long COVID. Hopefully that there's some insight for people. Again, this is nothing compared to what, a lot people have lost their lives from COVID. People have lost loved ones from COVID. People have had a lot more symptoms, greater symptoms than I have. In fact, I did get diagnosed as having long COVID. And from just, again, looking around things, it looks like a lot of times people who have mild COVID can have a tendency to have long COVID. And the symptoms for these people with long COVID are all over the place. And from hair loss, it's all kinds of things. So it's different in every person. But it's been kind of a pain. I haven't felt as good as I would like to feel, but trying to work through it and making the best of it. Been kind of working on some strength stuff and doing less running. Not sure what we're going to do. Ann and I both, as a side note, we both ran the Erie Marathon. I did qualify for Boston, but it was my second worst time ever, so I definitely did not have a good day. and Ann just missed qualifying for Boston and by like a minute or two. So that was kind of disappointing. And so we've been kind of evaluating, decide what we're going to do. I'm probably not thinking any more marathons, but we'll see. I do like the challenge, but right now I've been trying to work on some strength stuff, and Ann's been doing a lot more swimming, so that's kind of where we're at right now. But we'll touch base with you again, let you know what else we're thinking of and what we're working on, and we'll be in touch. And hope you guys are all doing well, and hope you haven't had COVID. And if you have, I hope you've bounced back from it and doing well. And until next time, live courageously, embrace challenge, and go multiply faith, hope, and love that never fails. God bless.